So without further delay, I would like to invite Honorable Mr. R.P. Singh, Chairman of UPERC, for sharing his thoughts. As most of you know, I think UP in last 5 years has shown amazing progress, particularly in area of energy access. But also UP is a state, one of the 6 states which has a dedicated energy storage and EV manufacturing policy. So I think all the industry is looking really keenly to developments in UP. So, sir, thank you very much for joining us and look forward to hearing your views.
Thank you, Rahul, for inviting me. And of course, it is indeed a great pleasure to be here and share my thoughts. For this, I must compliment and thank ISGF for inviting me. As you all know, India's energy field is going dramatic changes. In fact, because of the renewables introduction, a lot of changes are happening in the power sector. Till January, approximately 86 gigawatts of renewable energy has been added, out of which 31 gigawatts is by way of solar and another 36.5 is by way of wind energy. These two sources are, of course, they are nature's gift to the mankind, but they are intermittent and also they are unpredictable because it's a location-specific source. And integrating them with the grid is really becoming an issue. And with approximately out of 365 gigawatt total installed capacity, 86 gigawatt is 23%. So you can imagine 23% of the renewable capacity going into the grid is changing the whole dimension. The renewable-rich states have already started feeling the difference because managing grid is becoming very, very complex day by day because of intermittency and variability. You know, you cannot have a system whereby the solar energy can be directly used off-grid. Either you need a battery or you need a grid. So battery makes it very expensive because then it has to be in a standalone, it will be in island or standalone mode. But the moment it goes to the grid, there are issues related to balancing. As Rahul has already explained most of the balancing issue. Balancing has got a cost also. As a regulator, we have to go through all the aspects and see that while we are expected to see that the whole power is technology neutral, but because of the India's, nationally determined contribution and commitment of reaching 40% by 2030 and renewable power obligation being casted upon the distribution network, we have to take into account the fact that renewable energy has to be inducted in the system. What I'm trying to say is that renewable energy, so-called, is now being said that the solar prices have dropped and it is now available at 3 rupee per unit. But that is not the real cost of solar power when it reaches the consumer. The balancing cost which the CEA, the Central Electricity Authority, has worked out also is substantial. It adds up to roughly 1 rupee 10 paisa per unit. And if you see the total spectrum, out of 365 gigawatts, even if you take the renewable energy plant utilization factor on the average to be around, for solar it's 20%, for wind it is said to be around 30%, and now hydro, even if you include, is not more than 30 to 35%. With that CUF even, we have never utilized the total generating assets which we have. We have reached only 180 gigawatts of the demand. That means there are lots of stranded assets in the power sector in the country, which are being funded by the consumers. In UP alone, annually we are paying around 6,000 crore by way of standard capacity charges. With the introduction of renewable power, if you see the plant load factor of the thermal power plants have started coming down. In 2011, the average PLF was more than 74 to 75%, be it the centrally CPSU, NTPC and others, or the state and others. Now, over years, as the RE has been introduced, the PLF of the thermal power plant has started coming down. It's now, this year it is expected to be around 55%, which is almost at the technical minimum periphery. The moment the PLF goes down, the cost of generation is increasing, and although RE is said to be the cheaper one, the balancing cost is also added on the power sector, and the standard capacity cost is also added. The standard capacity cost of the whole nation is 1 rupee per unit, which is not being talked about at this moment. Because lots of capacity is there. The debt is to be serviced. The entities which have set up those capacities have borrowed funds from the institution. So that is what is creating more stress, financial stress on the whole power sector. And over and above that, we have got this RPO obligation and a nationally determined mandate of reaching 40%. So these are the challenges. I'm just drawing the background picture of it. Then again, now let's examine the other aspect, which has again, Rahul in fact has covered almost all the aspect and left very few for us to say. Every state has got its own load profile. I'll talk about my load profile. Our consumers constitute roughly 75% in number is the domestic consumer, which have got more than 50% of the connected load. And then agriculture is there, and industry is almost 15% by way of connected load and 25 to 30% of the energy consumed. When we draw their load curve, of course the load curve varies based on season as well as time of the day. We have got two peaks, one in the morning peak and one is the evening peak. Since we have got less number of industries in the state, there is a very limited demand during the daytime. And during this daytime, all the solar power is coming. Fortunately, we don't have, or unfortunately, we don't have the wind energy in our state. But through RPO obligation, it is being imported from other states. So basically, during the daytime, we are having more and more solar energy coming into our grid in the state-wise. So these challenges are becoming, leading to issues related to frequency operation, voltage operations, and all those things. While the state regulator and the central regulators, we have tried to solve these issues through various regulations like grid code and deviation settlement mechanism regulations and forecasting and scheduling. But the renewable forecasting and scheduling is not very matured at this stage, and it needs some time before it. So what is the way out? The only way out is that now we have to manage our load curve and introduce some system which is ensuring that our assets are not unevenly loaded or burdened, and we do not establish more capacity to meet the peak, which is for a very short duration. In fact, in UP, if you see the base load is roughly 13,000 megawatt and the peak load goes up to 22,000 megawatt. And that too is for less than 2% of the, if we draw the load duration curve, it is for less than 2% of the time. And the DISCOMs, they are setting up all sort of, they are going for all sort of power procurement. We have advised them, no, don't go for your peak through your long-term power purchase agreement. Work out for other solutions. Their battery storage or energy storage system here plays a very important role. And they can be used to cater to the peak demand to address the variability and intermittency in the generation. They can also provide the grid support considering optimal placement, be it at the generating side or the transmission side or distribution side or even at the consumer side. It has got various applications. It can be used anywhere, which will reduce the power purchase cost for the DISCOM and also bring in efficiency in the sector. Now, primarily battery, when we talk about the storage in the power sector, for last 2 years, 3 years, we are finding that battery storage is the most talked about subject. However, we have forgotten there are other systems of storage also, like pump hydro storage system, batteries there, then thermal storage is there, then compressed air storage, flywheel and hydrogen fuel cell, etc. And globally, right now, the pump storage capacity is still accounts for more than 90%. While battery is rapidly being deployed, but in terms of capacity, pump hydro storage is the major source for storage. In India, the first pump storage plant was taken up at Nagarjun Sagar in Andhra Pradesh with 700 megawatts of capacity. And currently we have roughly 4,700 odd megawatts of pump storage capacity, and the CEA has identified potential of roughly 96,000 megawatt of pump hydro storage capacity, out of which only 7,000 is being explored by way of surveys and DPRs and all those things. But now the pump hydro storage is losing its charm, is losing its attraction, and there are a lot of delays because of the hydropower plants. They are, they have got some geographical limitations. There are environmental concerns. It relates to, forced displacement, flooding, and all those issues. So pump hydro storage is not it has not remained a very attractive option for the power sector. But the other options right now, of course, if they are deployed at the generation level, they will help in arbitrage and capacity firming or reducing curtailment. And in the transmission level, it can play the role of frequency and voltage control and black starting. In the distribution, it can definitely help in voltage and peak shaving, etc., etc. And the deviation settlement mechanism can also be achieved through battery storage, because it can be utilized both during the peak as well as off-peak time. When we have got peak, then it can, by discharging, it can provide the energy, and when there is lesser demand, the same energy which is generated can be used for charging the battery. So battery option has a great potential, and there is various battery technologies which have been talked about. As a regulator, I basically do not go in for technology-specific solution, because again, we lose the sight of the. We believe that let the price and the economics determine its advantages. But there are certain drawbacks also associated with batteries, as the question was asked, that the disposal of these batteries, because all the batteries have their life cycle is limited to charging discharging cycle. Roughly 4,000 to 5,000 charging discharging cycle is said to be the life for the lithium ion, which is widely talked about. Then high conversion cost is another. At present, depending upon the technology which is used by the battery, more than 10 to 15% of energy is lost in conversion. That is another aspect. Third thing is this high cost. Right now, I'm told that though the cost is coming down, but presently it is more than $250 per kilowatt or something like that. And it is expected that the moment it reaches $100, it will going to play wonders for the whole power sector. And progress is, we are fortunately moving in that direction. Another aspect of the battery storage is that the round trip energy efficiency is in the range of 50 to 80%, which is okay for the time being. But then the cost benefit of that battery application will depend upon where and for the purpose for which it is being used. In the storage area, there is one new kid in the block, which is also a storage system, which is, I read about that about few weeks back only. It is similar to your pump hydro storage, is called pump thermal electricity storage system. This is the model is based on the conventional, heat thermodynamic cycle. In this system, the heat is used for when the electricity is surplus, you convert into heat and store it in hot materials such as water or gravel inside an insulated tank. And when you require the energy, this heat is turned back into electricity using the heat engines. These conversions are being done with the thermodynamic cycles and involves conventional technologies like heat exchangers, compressor, turbines, and electric generators. The advantage of this is that it will shorten the time required to design and build the ESS, that is the energy storage system, and it can be easily deployed and scaled up to meet the grid shortage. Energy density of this is also almost 10 times the pump hydro storage. When we are talking about the energy density, that means 1 kilogram of water, if we use by taking up about 500 meters for storage and giving that energy head, and then you convert it back, the same 1 kilogram of water, if it is heated by 100 degrees Celsius, the net energy available for conversion is much higher in the pump thermal energy storage system. Size is smaller as compared to this thing, and its efficiency is albeit a bit lower. Okay. So its efficiency is a bit lower, but then it can be further tested and tried to see whether it can fit into the grid storage system or not. Now, I think I'll conclude my remarks by saying that energy storage system can help in balancing out unacceptable voltages or current from intermittent sources and allow renewable energy sources to continue producing electricity rather than with curtailed. But in Indian context, we need this model to be further, experiment and see, so that ultimately we go in for a system which is cost effective and which does not increases the price of the power to the end consumers. Thank you.